Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I thought I would share my birth story. Today is the 25th of February 2021 and my baby is exactly 1 month old today. So yeah, she was born the 25th of January. So yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind, the birth, if I'm being completely honest. But I'm so lucky that I had a healthy, happy baby. So on the 24th of January, I was 41 weeks and 5 days, and that was the day at 2 o'clock I was going to be induced. So I went in and they said they have to do like all sort of like the general checks before they sort of do the induction. So they did sort of my blood pressure. I think they checked I think they did like a wee sample and I was put on a monitor on my stomach where they monitored baby's heartbeat and and then there was another monitor on my tummy that monitored my contractions if I was having any. The appointment was 2 o'clock, so I think I was hooked up to like those two monitors, I'd say around 2:30, and it showed that baby's heartbeat was fast. So I had this monitor on. So yes, baby's heartbeat was fast. It was a little bit of a cause for concern. They didn't know whether that was normal for my baby because I'd never been in there previously. I never had any form of scans, like reduced movement scans, so they didn't know whether her faster heartbeat was normal for her. So within that time frame, I ended up having to have a cannula put in. I had to be on an IV drip, I think, I can't remember, and I have very deep veins, so they said that, so basically all in all it took an hour and a half for them to fit my cannula. Obviously I had to wait so basically 2 midwives attempted to do it. They couldn't do it, so we had to wait for a doctor. So a doctor came in and attempted twice and they couldn't do it, and also he then got his colleague just to have a look and just to help. She had a look and she said she's not going to prod me anymore, and they were going to get an anaesthetist to come and do it. I knew this was going to be the case because every time I go for blood tests it takes multiple people to do it. So the anaesthetist struggled as well, which I was a bit like surprised about because they sort of do it all the time. But so the anaesthetist got it on the second attempt. Prior to this, they were going to get like this monitor where like shows your veins. I don't know if it was like a UV like monitor thing. So yeah, so I had that, and prior to me having the drip, they said that I need to drink lots of water. So I was drinking like jugs of water. They said like baby's heartbeat is fast, you could be dehydrated or there could be some form of infection going on, so just drink lots of water. So I did, and I think it sort of came down, but then it was sort of not much. So anyway, I had this drip. I've got some notes on my phone, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at these notes. Because to be honest with you, it was a bit of a blur. If you hear any noises, it's because baby is literally behind the camera in her Moses basket. Midwives and doctors quite frequently coming in and checking on. It was like a graph thing, and I had like lines going up and down. So they were checking on that quite a lot. So anyway, I'm not quite sure what time this was, but I had like an examination to see how dilated I was, if I was dilated, and it turns out I was already 2 centimetres dilated. So they said they don't need to do like an induction because I'm already 2 centimetres, and they're going to try and stretch it to 3. So that happened. So at about 6 o'clock, I was told I was going to have to go on the labour ward, like the labour ward, the labour-led unit. Originally I was on the midwifery-led unit because I was low risk. However, this all changed because her, like I said, her heart rate was still fast and they were still concerned. So I was at 6 p.m. I was transferred to this lovely room. It had really nice lighting. It had sort of like an ensuite toilet. It was really quite nice. So I was transferred there at around 6 o'clock. Again, I was still on these monitors, which, you know, prior to this, and like my birth sort of preference, my birth plan type thing, I didn't want to be constantly on a bed, but they said that because it was such a concern for baby's heartbeat, I had to remain sort of on the bed. I could like stand up and walk about a little bit, but to be honest with you, you know, the pain at this point, the pain was getting a little bit high, and I was just tired. I was tired, to be honest. So even though prior to going in to all this, I was quite happy to be sat and lay on a bed. You know, like I said, I did get up and about, but yeah. So yeah, and I kept having to sort of, and at this point I was having like tremendous pain in my back. It was so bad, the pain in my back. I felt like it was all in my back. So yeah, I had to sort of like, and I was most comfortable sitting up or like a little bit, you know, like on the bed that I had. It could sit all the way up, or you could have it a bit raised down. Anyway, I was comfortable just sitting on my back or being like sat up. Anyway, they said that it's not good for baby. Baby doesn't like me being sat that way, so I had to lie on one of my sides. I think it was the left side, and that was awful. It was so painful, but they said that basically it's in my best interest to lie on my side for baby. So I lay on my side, and I was in that much pain that thank goodness they got me a TENS machine. So they got me a TENS machine, which helped tremendously. There was absolutely no way I could have coped with that kind of pain without that TENS machine. It would have ended up me having an epidural very, very early on if it wasn't for that TENS machine. So I highly recommend getting a TENS machine. But I was just so grateful that the hospital had one. So after that, at 7:30, I had my waters broke, and she said that there's literally hardly any waters. She said that she sort of doubted herself whether she'd broke them or not, because there was literally hardly any water. So that was that. I was transferred to the labour unit at around 7 o'clock, it says in my notes, not 6. I was given some medication through my drip, oxytocin and syntocin, if I pronounced that right. Yeah, again they were still worried about baby's heartbeat. So at this point, I think when they sort of swapped over staff, there was a midwife or a doctor, there was someone, a professional in the room at all times, constantly watching this graph. What I thought was really good about the hospital that we were at, they had like what they called a buddy system. So every hour or so, they'd have another midwife who had nothing to do with my care come in and just check over everything. And they said they do that in case like the midwife who is dealing with me sort of misses anything, and a fresh set of eyes looking in on my care, which I thought was really good. It says here I got the TENS machine at around 9 o'clock. So between 7 and 9, I must have been in quite a lot of pain. And by 9 o'clock, I was given a TENS machine. Thought it was earlier than that, but it mustn't have been. Yeah, I was also given gas and air. As soon as I sort of went on the labour sort of room, ward, I was offered gas and air, and I did need it, so I did have it. After my waters were broken at 7:30, they didn't really check me or do an examination on me for a while. They said they didn't want to cause any infection or anything like that, so I didn't really have any examination. So at this point, I didn't know how dilated I was, whether I was still 2 centimetres, whether I'd progressed. I didn't know. At 1 a.m, I was then examined, and I was told I was 4 centimetres. And at this point, I just had gas and air and a TENS machine. Basically, I just couldn't leave. Basically, at this kind of stage, I couldn't leave the bed. I was sort of chained to the bed, basically. One, I had no energy to get up and about at this stage, and 2, I don't think that they had like a portable monitor, because I think they would have offered that to me. And quite a lot of the times I said, can I get up, you know, can I go to the toilet even if I didn't need it, just wanted to get up, and they basically just said I couldn't because of baby's heartbeat. So that was a little bit rubbish, really. So eventually I got to 6 centimetres. I was, like I said, just on gas and air, TENS machine and my drip. Basically on the monitor that I was attached to, like the drip, they were trying to it was like they were trying to increase whatever they were putting in it to get me more dilated. But they said to me that's basically they wanted to like heighten the whatever they were putting into the drip. But basically the doctor said that every time they increased it, baby's head was getting squashed, and baby's heart rate was getting significantly faster. So they couldn't increase the monitor, and they couldn't increase the drip to get me more dilated because it wasn't good for baby. So they had to keep it on a very low one, which meant I wasn't getting dilated very fast at all. I'm not sure what time this was. It was through the night, because I remember it was the night staff that checked me. There was a student midwife and there was a fully qualified midwife as well through the night shift. So yeah, so I asked for some more pain relief, and they gave me diamorphine by an injection in my leg, and that was very good. That helped me a lot with the pain. Yeah, and at this stage I was unable to go to the toilet on my own, so I had to have like a catheter in to drain my bladder. It wasn't kept in, they did it and then they took it out. I don't know whether it was a catheter, it was just something that they drained. I'm not sure, and like I said, I was on gas and air and diamorphine at this stage, so I wasn't 100% sure. So yeah, at some point within the night I was told that I needed another 4 hours of constant monitoring, where someone was constantly in the room for a further 4 hours, and they were just basically trying to promote my labour. But at this stage they said that baby's head was getting a little bit squashed at each contraction, which was a little bit worrying. So they didn't know whether I had an infection. So she was still inside me. They a blood test on her head and a blood test on me, and they said that one came back normal and one didn't, so they had to take into consideration the one that didn't come back normal. So at this stage there was some talk about me having a potential cesarean section at this stage, because there was no progress with me being dilated. Baby was getting a little bit distressed through to her head being slightly squashed. I'm not sure what time this was, but it must have been early hours, because I remember the doctor was she was the night doctor. There was some talk about a potential epidural, but I didn't want one at that stage. However, looking back, I kind of wish I had an epidural a lot earlier on, because it would have been a lot less traumatic for me and a lot less traumatic for my husband to sit and watch me being in that kind of pain. So that's kind of one thing I kind of wish maybe had earlier. It was sort of the next day now, a new midwife came in and her name was Carmel. She was absolutely amazing. All the staff were amazing, all the doctors were amazing, but Carmel was just absolutely amazing. She was so nice. She looked after me, she looked after my husband. She like little things, like I had chapped lips, and she was like, do you need any Vaseline? I can get you some Vaseline. To my husband, I can tell your water's low, do you want any water? Like, she was just so caring, and I was just so thankful that we had her. Yes, but at this point it was now the day. I don't know what time it was, but there was a staff changeover, and again I had another examination, and I was still 6 centimetres, and this was hours later. So, and they were still looking at this graph thing. Basically there's just no improvement with me and no improvement with baby. I think if anything, baby was getting worse. Her head was getting squashed more frequently. So they did suggest a doctor came in and they said the options that we're going for now is, because your baby is getting distressed, to have to rack up this machine as much as we can, so yeah, we might suggest an epidural just because it might be painful, but it's in the baby's best interest. So I was like, absolutely, give me, 100%. I was like, that's absolutely fine. I will have the epidural because, to be honest with you, I was really struggling at this point with pain. So I had the epidural. The anaesthetist was so lovely as well. I really struggled at this point, like, because you have to sit on the bed and sort of really lean over, and like I previously said, my back was in absolute agony the pregnancy and the labour. So it was really hard getting into the position that she needed me to get into, because it just hurt so much to sort of bend over, but it had to be done. So this was around I reckon around 2 o'clock, because I remember the midwife Carmel, she went on her dinner, and she said that she went on her dinner and it was around 2 o'clock, because she said, because the lady who was covering her said, if you don't go now, you're never going to go. This is a late lunch type thing. Yes, it was around the 2 o'clock mark. The decision was made for me to have an epidural around 1, and it was not until around 1:30, 2 I had it. And after I had it, I was asleep. I just fell asleep. And then I was woken up at 3 o'clock by a doctor who then did another examination and said I'd got... Oh wait, so prior to me having this epidural, I was 8 centimetres, which I thought was amazing. We're nearly there. We're nearly at 10 centimetres. So I was at 8 centimetres, but they said they're going to have to increase this machine, so that's when I was off the epidural. So anyway, I had the epidural and I was asleep, completely asleep. And then again, the doctor came back in, looked at this monitor of me and monitor of baby's heart rate, and it was just, nothing was improving. So he basically did another examination. I was no further dilated. I was still 8 centimetres. So he said he's spoken to the surgeon and we're going to have to go for a cesarean section. It looks like we're going to have to go through to surgery. We're going to have a cesarean section because baby is getting really distressed now at this point. So it was just, I wasn't shocked, but I didn't think I was going to have a section. I didn't, like, prior to giving birth, I didn't really research sort of like the aftermath of the recovery or anything to do with the section, because I just didn't think I was going to have one. Anyway, but at this stage I was kind of excited because I just thought, I just want to meet the baby now. She's literally made me wait 13 days past my due date. Just please get this baby out. So basically he said, he went through all the documentation, all what they need to tell me, and I had to sign it, and he basically said within the next hour you will meet your baby. And that was just absolutely everything. I just was so excited. So it was kind of a blur from this. So I was already in one of their gowns anyway, and so I was wheeled. So I had to be wheeled. Prior to this, the surgeon came in, she introduced herself, and she sort of said, I'll be the one doing the procedure. My name, I can't remember what her name was. So it wheeled me. I just remember being wheeled with quite a few people like around me. I just remember being wheeled into this room. There was a big whiteboard that said my name on it, and then there was just so many professionals in there. They all introduced the names, but I just can't remember any of the names. They were all so nice. I remember one of the men in there said, are you having a boy or a girl? And we didn't know, and he said that is the best way. That's how he had his children. He didn't know. And so they put me on the bed, and I just remember, so the anaesthetist, like, when I had my epidural, hours before when I had my epidural, she was putting like some liquid on like my arm and my leg to see if I could feel if it was cold or not. And she did it again. She did it again in the room, in like the theatre room. She was sort of putting like liquid on me to see if I could feel it. Anyway, when it was all sorted, I remember just like looking around for Adam, my husband, and she was like, "Don't worry, he will be here. He will be here." And I remember just lying. They had like the blue curtain up and everything. They were just pressing. So yeah, so when he came, it was just so nice. It meant everything for me to see him, because I was a little bit nervous, a little bit scared. And then when I saw my husband, I just felt fine. I felt absolutely fine. So, and the weirdest thing was, I remember the anaesthetist saying to me, "Can you feel your legs? Can you try and move your legs up?" And I couldn't. It was just so strange. Yeah, and like I said, didn't feel anything. You don't when you have an epidural, I believe. So, and I just remember I just remember her cry, and at this point, like I said, we didn't know the gender. I just remember her, like, it was only like a tiny cry. I just remember a little tiny cry. I literally burst into tears. Me and my husband like burst into tears. They did delayed cord clamping, I was told, which I'm glad about. And I just remember them lifting her like above the curtain, and my husband telling me it was a girl, and then the anaesthetist said, "It's a girl, happy birthday." It was just so surreal. It was the best day of my life. You know, throughout my pregnancy, for some strange reason, I thought we were having a boy. I was so happy to have a boy, and I was so happy to have a girl. I did not mind. I just wanted a baby, a healthy, happy baby, and I was lucky enough to have a mini-me, a daughter, a girl, and her name's Eliza, and she's just everything. She's making a few noises because she's asleep. She's quite vocal at the moment. So yes, after all that, I went into the recovery room. Oh dear. Went into the recovery room, and we spent quite a long time in there. I think it was about an hour or so in the recovery room. I had immediate skin-to-skin contact as well, straight away. I had immediate skin-to-skin contact, and because I'm quite small, they put her on my chest, and she was really high up on my chest, so I was sort of like, I couldn't properly see her, because of, like I said, because of where the curtain was and how small I am, I couldn't have her like here because it wasn't enough room for them to stitch me up. So she was quite high up, so I was like, so at one point, so I had a skin to skin for about half an hour while they were doing whatever they needed to do, and then my neck was kind of hurting, and I was scared to take my eyes off her in case like she suffocated, or you just don't know, she's just so tiny, and I couldn't see her full face. So my husband then held her, which was lovely, for a few moments, and then she was passed back to me, and we went to the recovery room, and yeah, we were there for quite some time. We were born at 3:44, and we were in the recovery room, so we were there. So she was born at 3:44. After they did whatever they needed to do, stitch me up and whatever they needed to do, we went to the recovery room. I was given a jacket potato with beans and cheese, and it was the nicest. It was just the nicest meal ever. I was offered tea and toast, but I wanted a jacket potato, and it was just so nice. My husband had to feed it to me though, because we were in quite a small like little room, and it was like a curtain, and I had baby, and I was still attached to loads of things. I had loads, like my blood pressure was being monitored, had something on my finger, and there was just loads of wires basically. So he had to feed it me, and the funniest thing was he hates beans, so that was funny. But yeah, again, I had skin-to-skin contact for hours really, because she was born at 3:44, and I don't think we left until about 6:30, 7 that day. And Adam, my husband, was with me the entire time, which I'm so thankful for. So yeah, we both had cuddles with her, and then it was time for me to go up on the ward. It was ward 23, and I remember just being wheeled up. Adam had to go, which was really quite sad. Yes, I was wheeled up into the ward, and I'll never forget, I was literally lay there, and Carmel, before she left, she came up and she said, like, goodbye, It was her husband's birthday the same day as well, and she was just so lovely. So I'll never forget, so I was on the ward, I literally went into the ward, and the two midwives came up to me and they said, right, we want you to have a shower and we want you to go to the toilet. And I was like, I've literally just had major surgery. But they want you to get up, they want you to get up and about. I originally said no to the shower. I had like my catheter removed, and I did go to the toilet by myself. But yeah, the shower, I was a little bit nervous to get in the shower because I felt quite sore and I didn't know how I was going to go about sort of like taking my clothes off and like showering. But like after an hour or so, I felt so sweaty and so I did end up getting in the shower, and that it was extremely difficult, but I did feel better for it, because even just, it's just difficult taking clothes off, putting clothes on. I couldn't bend down. But yeah, so I got in the shower, and then she was absolutely amazing. She's a great sleeper. You're making lots of noises there, Mrs., aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, so she's absolutely great sleeper. She's just so good. And I forgot to mention that I was breastfeeding, so the first few times I had to have assistance by the midwives helping her latch on and helping me breastfeed, because I had no idea what I was doing, but she's taken to it really well. But again, on the ward, I found it difficult because where my bed was, she was obviously next to my bed. So every time she needed a feed or I needed to change her, I'd have to really struggle getting off the bed, walking round. And then if I needed to feed her, I'd have to get her, then I'd have to put her on the bed, hold her, walk round, get in. Oh, it was just really, really, really difficult. And I was quite sore, really. So I just really wanted to come home because I struggled doing it all by myself, and I didn't want to keep pressing my buzzer because I know how busy the midwives were. So I didn't want to keep pressing the buzzer to be like, can you pick my baby up? I did do it twice because I just couldn't do it. So yeah, and then the next morning, a midwife, Claire, she was lovely. She was so nice. It was actually her first day, and she was so lovely, and she again helped me learn breastfeeding. And so this is the 26th now, the day after she was born. A consultant came in and did like checks on her. She was absolutely fine. She had a hearing test, absolutely fine. I did mention this in my previous video. And then because we were both doing really well, they asked if I wanted to go home, and I said yes, so we did. And it was quite late, it was around 9 p.m, so it was quite unusual, really. So on discharge, I was given 10-day injections to prevent blood clots. So I did them for 10 days, and that hurt. I put it in my leg. You could put it in your leg or your stomach, and I was still sore on my tummy, so I put them in my leg, and they hurt, they stung. But it just had to be done. And I also had a blood test and was told I had low iron, so I had to have, I think I had I've not long finished those iron tablets, so I had about a month's supply, just under a month's supply of iron tablets. Yeah, and then we came home and it was just amazing. But yeah, I'm so happy and so lucky that we have a little girl. And yeah, so thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned because a baby girl haul is coming. I have so many clothes to show you, because prior to we knowing if she was a girl or not, everything was neutral. As soon as we knew she was a girl, every single family member, all my friends, everyone bought loads of pink girly things, so I'll be showing you them in the next video. So like and subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, and we'll see you then. Bye!